Good afternoon. Welcome to our afternoon session. We have a number of very interesting presentations, and I will moderate them. My name is Sergey Khan, and as an adopted member of Box House, Kukitan, my name is Shakun Dastu, also was adopted by the Daklawedi with the name Gunak. I teach anthropology at Dartmouth College in New Hampshire. Our first presenter doesn't really need an introduction. She's an incredible weaver, talented artist, Lily Hope of the Ductington clan. Title of her talk, Chilkat Weaving, Endangered No More. And I think she'll say a little bit more about herself and introduce herself.
I am not a man, I am not a woman, I am not a person, I am not myself, I am a storyteller. You're here for Chilkat Weaving, Endangered No More. This was originally shared back in February of this year, but it still holds true. I am a Chilkat and Raven's Tail weaver teacher, and this is my story. Wushkindain da'at yochat duasak yet nachatsati duckdain tan ayachat. My Tlingit name is Wushkindain da'at. I am Tlingit, a weaver, artist, and assistant professor of Northwest Coast Regalia Arts at the University of Alaska Southeast. I'm also the mother of 5 children, and you can follow me at Lily Hope Weaver on Instagram and lilyhope.com if you want to reach out. I am here, literally, physically, all being ways, because of my mother, Clarissa Rizal, who was a renowned weaver and artist herself. She taught me to weave by inviting me to participate in whatever she was doing. I don't remember playing Pictionary or Categories or Scrabble with my mother, but I do remember dyeing and spinning and harvesting and weaving. I was always invited to do whatever she was doing. And because I'm the middle child, I always said yes. Turns out that I was in the thick of raising children and being an actor and all sorts of other things, storytelling, and then my mom died, and I was halfway through my first Chilkat blanket. But we're going to talk about Chilkat blankets, and to talk about Chilkat blankets, we have to refer to their sibling textile, Raven's Tail. This is a Swift blanket that's in the Peabody Museum. And Raven's Tail weavings are visually recognizable from black and yellow, often white, black, yellow borders, and then geometric patterns, often inspired from nature and basketry of the Northwest Coast. They are mainly made, historic pieces are mainly made with black and white and a sparing use of usually yellow, although pieces today are being made with all the colors of the rainbow because we can. Chilkat blankets, this one's in the Burke Museum. Chilkat blankets are slightly visually different in that they have often 5 sides on them with bold, like very thick black and yellow borders that kind of hold everything together. And then the form line, which is our Northwest Coast art, visual art form with ovoids and split U's and circles, are painted with yarn in a Chilkat blanket. These are probably 3 times as involved or labor intensive as a Raven's Tail robe. A skilled weaver could make a Raven's Tail geometric robe in about 800 to 1,000 hours, and myself and many weavers in this room and beyond, a single Chilkat blanket takes 2,500 to 3,000 hours to make. Again, they are finger twined on an upright loom. There, you can see the cute baby socks. Those aren't holding any weights in them. That is just keeping the warps themselves from getting dirty, and they look really cute. And what are you going to do with baby socks after your kids are, wiping their own butts? So Chilkat blankets are finger twined, very similar to how spruce root and cedar bark baskets are made. The warps have cedar bark spun into them, and not only do we finger twine with weft, and the weft weaves from the weft side to the white side and back to the weft again. Then we also braid both horizontally and vertically in Chilkat technique, and those braids are kind of the magic that make the curves in Chilkat design. That every time there's a color change, there's a set of braids that helps define the shapes and defines the beings in there. So very, very laborious. This little section on the right side of the screen with the double white circles in it is probably 100 hours of work, just those little sections. This was the blanket I was halfway finished with when my mom died, so it took me another 8 months to finish after she passed away. This one lives in the Portland Art Museum, and as I was finishing it, I realized that the title is the Lineage Robe or Heritage Robe, and it is a version of the pattern board that my mother, Clarissa, taught me to weave on 7 years prior. So that is historically accurate, that we would take a pattern from our weaving teaching lineage, and share them among weavers in a teaching lineage. So the lineage robe is really tracking that. I was in the middle of weaving the little yellow double spaces near the inner robe area, and I was like, I've done this before. Holy smokes, on her Jenny Weaves an Apprentice robe. This one was finished in 2020, maybe, 3 years later. Each of my robes might be 2,500 hours, but it's about 2.5 years of my actual span of time, because I have 5 children and I teach workshops and come and do lectures and all the things. And people die, and then you get divorced, and then you have more babies and all the things. So Chilkat blankets aren't just, a story captured in woven form, or a record of history for Native peoples, or a request from a commissioner who says, I want a double raven blanket. Can you tell that story? It's also a record of the weaver or weavers' lives, where we can look at that and say, oh, that's where I fell off my bike and I was weaving with 2 fingers. And that's where my kid was like on my lap and crying and like sick for 3 days and just holding a small child and weaving. And of course, you have to look at the weaver's journals for those things. This robe is born from my mother's inspirations through collage. She did a lot of paper collage with us as we were children. I was playing with paper collage in taking the primary traceable black lines of the diving whale, as this one is, and laying blueberries behind it, laying images of sassafras and all sorts of other things behind the primary lines that you can drive a baby car on in the Chilkat distributive design. And this, I don't know if this comes to you guys as artists, but about 2 o'clock in the morning, I was like, oh no, it's a diving whale, but then there's this hands and face pressed against the veil between worlds. So this robe is the Between Worlds robe. And we talk about the Chilkat blanket as a veil between our physical world and the spirit world on the other side. I like to think that maybe this being is Clarissa, or a teacher, or an ancestor who is keeping their eyes on us, keeping their hands in our realm for a little bit and looking at the viewer. Between Worlds. This one lives at the Houston Museum of Natural Science. The main part of my work, though, other than legitimizing myself as a Chilkat blanket maker, I don't know if that's legit, I spend a lot of time teaching, like a lot of time. Come to realize that there are some weavers who their spiritual practice is to sit in a closet or a small space or their living room surrounded by children weaving Chilkat blankets. My spiritual practice and my necessary legacy and life force, giving life force energy is to sit in spaces with students, and how much of a disservice it is to my community and my students, the greater community, to sit in a space all alone when I could be sitting with students, with apprentices, and making sure that this thread of my mother's teachings continues, right? That my work is entwined in the apprenticeship, in the teaching. So in 2020, First American Art Magazine put out a call for Native artists to respond to the pandemic. And they said, submit your artwork, your masks that are woven in your art form, and we'll put our favorite ones in the magazine later. So I submitted this Chilkat Protector mask. The nose of a Chilkat weaving is the hardest thing, maybe with the salmon head trout thing. That's also really hard. There's so many little tiny, it's a psychological mind screw though, because it's actually legit, like technically it's really little baby steps, but if you psych yourself out, it is impossible, and you spend more time thinking and freaking out about weaving a nose than you do physically weaving it. So it's a great beginner thing to teach people. If you can weave a nose, some people say you can weave a circle in Chilkat, you can weave anything. If you can weave a nose, you can weave anything in Chilkat. So I wove a few of these. This mask was picked up by the Burke Museum as soon as it was released into the world. It was included in the First American Art Magazine show, and I wove a few other masks. This is Indigenous Ancestral Protectors. One of the masks is woven in all our ancestors' design, and then you can see that trans pride and queer pride are also represented. When I wove the first mask for the Burke Museum, or for First American Art, my 10-year-old at the time said, "Mom, you should totally weave like 40 of those masks." And I was like, "Kid, these are 75 to 100 hours in the making. Like, what do you think I'm made of, right?" During the pandemic, we spent a lot of time on the beaches and in our homes, and wiping butts with people running around on the floor. And I had no nanny and no support. Guess what? I wove 37 of these masks. I think it actually carried my sanity through, and I was like, oh, snack time, okay. And now that you're snacked and you can plug yourself in, or you're playing outside with sticks, I'm gonna sit over here and watch you and weave this nose. So conquered a lot of fear and anxiety through the pandemic in this. Because I used to teach 8 to 10 classes in person before the pandemic, I started teaching online. I made, I think, 80-something videos, start to finish, for how to weave a nose or how to weave a mask in this way, shared them out, and many of the masks that were woven are traveling with Protection, Adaptation, and Resistance, a show that was originated out of Bunnell Street Arts and then went to Tulsa Living Arts. I think it was down at Native Arts and Cultures Foundation. I'm gonna miss something and it's not good. Oh, Museum of International Folk Art, Santa Fe, and now is at the Alaska State Museum. It was also at the Anchorage Museum, started there after Bunnell Street Arts. But the cool thing about this mask project is that people could weave them together in their homes, and many mother-daughters and multiple generations. The family on the left is Shken George and her daughters. The family on the right in the button robes is Jacqueline Peda and Jody Watts, and the 3 daughters, granddaughters of Jackie's. But the community that was built within this, isolating pandemic was really powerful. 17 of these masks are now on display for that Protection, Adaptation, Resistance. And it speaks to how we took care of each other, how we survived, and that we are still weaving. This is not a dead art form. In Chilkat blankets, we use dyes and materials that come from the land, and now we can source things from the internet and order merino wool from New Zealand, Australia. We are still spinning cedar bark into our warp. The black and yellow border of this robe was acid dyed, and the 3 colors that are not the black and yellow were made with ethnographic record, the way that we can research them 200 years ago. The tiny little yellow ovoids in the palms of the inner collage, that is wolf moss that made that color. And then I'm going to skip just a second. These colors here. So this yellow is wolf moss. The seafoam green is copper ammonia with a apple cider vinegar overdye. And the hemlock bark brown, intentionally not cooked for the 7 to 9 hours. It's more like 5 hours to get this lighter reddish brown so that it could contrast in this robe right here. Right, I needed the eyebrows and hands to be visible and readable with the acid dyed black. Of course, a huge part of our work is bringing our children in. This is 4 of my 5 kids sitting on my lap. And of course, we had to do this epic up on the tram with an epic landscape behind us, looking down the Taku Valley, down the channel of Alaska, Juneau, Douglas. And we're processing mountain goat. This is one of 7 mountain goat hides that we need to create a historic Chilkat blanket. From my knowledge today, in the last 100 years, we haven't made a fully mountain goat Chilkat dancing blanket. The weavers that I know have been collecting hides, collecting balls of fur, balls of hair from the hillsides. I guess I have a sign on my door that says, drop me handfuls of goat hair, because sometimes I'll get like a little grocery bag of bird, like full of birds and sticks and leaves and slimy mountain goat hair on my studio door. So that's been amazing. Keep doing that, please. Send me your mountain goat hides, even if they're slimy and rotting. I can do something with that. But yes, bringing our children into this work is key. Again, dyes. And then during the pandemic, as we finished those masks and went into other projects, I still wasn't teaching in person. I wasn't traveling to Oregon, wasn't going to Canada like usual. And my students who had woven masks with me and many other projects said, can we weave Chilkat blankets? And I was like, I don't know how long this pandemic's gonna last. Please don't make me weave a 2.5-year Chilkat blanket with you. This would be terrible. So anyway, I started making little video tutorials on how to start Chilkat blankets. Kind of ambitious, actually, ridiculous. Right now, there are 673 videos for this singular project. And the fun part is we got together about 1.5 years after we started these robes. Many of them where the students, we didn't have access to spinners of Chilkat warp. So many of the students spun their own fiber from the very beginning. And we spent almost 3 months like spinning every single Sunday on Zoom, hanging out going, this is so hard. I have blisters. Why are we doing this? This is terrible. It was really fun. It was really fun. And then everyone started their robes, again, watching videos, getting together most every Zoom Sundays, drinking our tea in our own zip codes and weaving alongside each other, troubleshooting, why is this turning out? How do I do this? And then with the support of like 7 different foundations, yes, I wrote a lot of proposals and grants to bring these artists all together in Juneau for a 10-day finishing workshop. It was late January of 2023. We were scheduled to weave for 6 hours a day, 10 days in a row, and then do a first dance event. We ended up weaving those 6 hours in person and then going home and 2 and 3 people weaving on blankets and staying up until 2 a.m. and then getting up and doing it again for 6 hours in person. And snacks were provided and lunch, and thank you very much Smokehouse Catering and all the people who supported that. We had mothers and daughters weaving together. This is Shaw Hanlon and her daughter, again Jody Watts and Jacqueline Peta, her mama. And we had Shken and Ricky Tagaban come in with Marsha Hotch as supportive mentor artists. We did video interviews with each artist. The videographer, Scott Burton, is in the room. Thank you, Scott. That footage has been captured and has yet to see the internet, so grant funders, come talk to me. Love to know how to put that out in the world. It's really emotional to talk with the weavers of like how they came to this work, what this particular project did to carry them through the pandemic, what this has meant to their family, to their children, to their partners. One of the weavers said that her husband was going through kidney dialysis, and that weaving was her safe place, was her like heart space of like, I'm gonna make it through this hard thing, because I can do this other really hard thing. Chilkat weaving. We did an event on February 1 with First Dance. This is Josh Jackson's TCLL K1 class. They were so patient and sat through a whole hour of like blah, 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 and Tlingit talking and English and all this. It was beautiful. And then the kids got to put these robes on and dance them for the first time. Which is critical in when a Chilkat weaver is finished with a work. It is part of the release of putting this little being out in the world. I can only imagine like dropping your kid off at college or setting them to kindergarten for the first time where you're like, you're not actually in my care anymore. We spent a lot of time together. I'm just gonna go to my car and cry. So this was really healing for all of us to be together after a long isolation period, and then to see our work dance all together for the first time. High energy, lots of enthusiasm. Yes, there was like little white feather down happening, and one of them was wearing a little shakiyat and had the like head like bang, you know, the perfect little like tilt with the feathers going. You know, we love to hoo-ha, brought that to life. 2 days later, we installed a museum show at the Juneau Douglas City Museum. I don't recommend that. But we did it again this summer and finished Raven's Tail work and then mounted a show 2 days later. And yes, I got sick. The day after the show opened, I was like, nope, not doing this again. Really not actually doing it. But this show was called For Our Children, Chilkat Regalia Woven in the Lineage of Jenny Clanat and Clarissa Rizal. And we didn't know it, but the child-size robe that we borrowed of Jenny Clanat's that was partially finished, that Sealaska Heritage Institute had just acquired before this show opened. It's the same robe that she was working on in 1985 when my mother and 11 other women went to the Raven House in Haines and started to learn to Chilkat weave from Jenny Clanat. It was the first offering that Jenny had put out into the universe of, I will teach outside of my family lineage. And like in that, we had already named the show, we had all the work finished, and SHI drops this robe off, it's hanging on the wall, we've got Clarissa's little child-sized robe on the wall, and then somebody's like, look at that historic picture, and look at that Jenny blanket, and look at, and we were like, no way. Like worlds, I mean, just like who engineered that action? It was super cool. Yeah, this is me actually saying, just so you know, we just figured out the robe that's in that photograph from 1985 is the robe that's on the wall. It was mind-blowing. This was the most well-attended Juneau Douglas City Museum show in the history of the current director. There were over 400 people who came through the show that night. And over the summer of 2023, more than 30,000 people visited that little tiny museum in Juneau. Pretty cool. This is my work on the left, my first Chilkat weaving on the head of that left mannequin. This centerpiece is by Shken George. You can see that there is a fragment from a sweater from a large retailer who allegedly borrowed a design from my mother. So that is appropriate use of a ceremonial object that has been passed on. We did a burning ceremony for that particular piece. And then Ricky Tagaban's first Chilkat is in the one with the red in it, the little wolf, Kagwantan. Oh, and this is, this is the little robe that is in progress in the historic photograph. So that's Jenny's on the far, far right. A lot of these robes that were in the show have gone off to have new homes. Lane is here. He dropped his to CDI down in Denver, Colorado. Sarah Kaltsuni donated her Chilkat blanket to the Juneau Douglas City Museum to be used as an educational piece. And this is Shadu Tla, who donated hers to Jill Costine Meserve. If you know the beadworker, Jill Meserve, Shaw donated hers to her clan opposite, I want to say that's true, to Jill's little girl, and it was dancing at Celebration in 2024. So sweet. And many of the weavers have gone on to become teachers themselves. This is Ruth Hollows from Arizona, who fully learned to weave these textiles on Zoom until she came and hung out with us 2-3 years later. Ruth is granddaughter to a Tsimshian artist, and she has been teaching pretty prolifically since February 23. And my apprentice, Dunedin Jackson, came back to Alaska and finished a couple pieces with me, and has also been teaching and doing workshops and demonstrations. She put this on her poster that says she's a mentee of Lily Hope Master Weaver. Mentor weaver, just a mentor weaver. Do you see how little gray is in my hair? Do you see that I still look like I'm 32? I am no master weaver. Maybe I'm 12,000 hours in, but I need another 12,000 hours before anybody calls me that. I'm not ever going to refer to myself as a master, because every time I come to the loom, I am learning. Sometimes I weave for 36 hours and take all the 36 hours back out and try it again. No master here. This is myself and my sister, and the robe in the middle is the robe that my sister actually vectorized the pattern of my mother's robe in the middle. And do you love that she is a beam of light right off of the Preston Singletary, that she's here in the picture with us? So our blankets that we wove were inspired by that middle piece that my mother wove for my son Lewis, and it's kind of the biggest inherited piece that my mother left for me. Finished work, anyway. I like to say she left my sister the house. She left my brother every single piece of finished artwork that she made and she collected from other artists. My brother has a lot of Preston Singletary stuff. And then she left me the sticks and bricks to build my house. And here I am, building my house. So thank you for witnessing this. Clarissa, on the far right in this photo, was a visionary for bringing community together and teaching beyond our single zip codes. This is the Weavers Across the Waters robe that she visioned with Susie Williams, where every artist put together a 5-inch project, and then we stitched them. We actually drawstringed. We put a drawstring between each of the little 5-inch weavings and then dropped braids over those drawstrings so it looks like a cohesive Chilkat weaving. She said, don't ever do that again. If you ever make a 5x5, do not drawstring them and do not put those braids over, because it was an extra hundreds and hundreds of hours in volunteer work. Really beautiful. This was, we wove the narrow borders up along the bottom of this in Portland, Oregon, and put it up at the Interwoven Radiance exhibition in 2017 or 2018, Portland Art Museum. And then it lives, this robe has been danced 4 or 5 times during maiden voyages of new dug out canoes. It lives on display in the Weavers Studio at Evergreen College Longhouse, right? Is that in Olympia, Washington? Did I say that in the correct order? And then, of course, we had to do it again because, oh, I want to call her, not Vanessa. Oh, I can see her face. She was weaving a teal and purple weaving, and in support of a dear person in her family who was affected by domestic and sexual violence. We sent out little kits, and you had the purple and the teal, and you're allowed to bring in yellow and a tiny bit of black if you needed to. But again, 54 artists have submitted 5-inch projects. We're weaving the turquoise and purple borders around the whole thing again. Just really meaningful that we are coming to this work. We had multiple Zooms and email conversations through all of these weavers that we're coming to the 5x5 project not with resentment and hatred and rage and all the darkness that comes from being affected by domestic and sexual violence, but to, as weaver healers, as beings who want to lift up survivors, we came to each of those weavings with strength and healing and support, as if we were wrapping our arms around the survivors. So can you imagine, this is going to live at the Aware Shelter in Juneau for people who have been deeply affected. As they come into this space, they'll have the prayers and strength and healing of 60 volunteer weavers around their shoulders. That's the beauty and gravity and significance of this work. It's bigger than any one of us. So we did it again, but in a different way. This is myself and 5 of my mentor weaver students and colleagues, Ray Mills, Hannah Schempf, Janet Schempf's baby girl, Ricky Tagaban, Melina Meyer, and Lane Reinhardt. We decided we were gonna weave a couple blankets, Chilkat dancing and Raven's Tail dancing blankets, with the Zach Gordon Youth Center, hilariously where my parents got married in 1977. And we're going to weave them on site with the youth at the Zach Gordon Youth Center in bright rainbow colors and black and white, of course. One of the robes being Chilkat, with the curvilinear lines and bright colors, asserting our intersectioned identities, right? That we are Native, we are queer, maybe we are non-Native and queer, maybe we're queer, and all of our identities, right? The field of queer and Native identity growing together, right? And the significance of offering this work to youth to be danced, that both of these robes will be worn, well, they've been woven by youth and mentor artists. 3 or 4 of the mentor artists identify in the queer field, queer spectrum, and it has been emotional and uplifting and rewarding and all of the beautiful things to witness students coming into this youth center and feeling like they are being seen and being supported, and seeing people who are identifying as they are, and making something bigger for hundreds of years into the generations to say, we are this awesome. Look at us, see us, lift us up. So if we go back 100, 200, 300 years, at any moment in the census gathering, we could count 6 to 12 maybe Chilkat blanket makers who are working every day. As of February 1 of 2023, we had more than 24 artists with the spiritual and technical knowledge of Chilkat weaving. So I think we're not quite endangered anymore. There's amazing things coming. We're going to weave a blanket up on the tram in Juneau, Alaska for the next 2 summers. I've got an apprentice who's sitting down next to me next Thursday and Friday. A daughter of a dear friend, Sakara Dunlap's baby girl sister, is going to come learn to weave with me. And there's hope. That's a pun on my name. Just kidding. I'm sorry. So, yeah, thank you so much for your time. Chilkat Weaving, Endangered No More.